Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 66 of Not the Worsted Knitting Podcast. My name is Michelle, and I am the knitter and knitwear designer behind meeshyfrazz Knits. In today's episode, we just have a couple of works in progress. This is going to be a pretty quick episode because it's so sad, but we have this really big, beautiful birch tree in our yard, and we have to actually have it cut down today. It's been dying for a little bit, and the tree guy recommended that we just go ahead and cut it down. So that is happening this afternoon. So I'm going to make sure that this is a quick video and I get this done before he comes. So I figured this would be a good way to distract myself from how sad I am about the birch tree. But, you know, it happens. So I've just got a couple of works in progress for you. I do have some progress that you haven't seen, and then I also have some negative progress, which is a little bit sad. Why don't we go ahead and start by talking about what I'm wearing. I am wearing the Magnolia Bloom sweater by Camilla Vad, and this is knit up in Woolfolk Luft, and it's in the color L21, which is basically like a dusty pink. This yarn is really nice because it's like a blown yarn, but it holds up pretty well. It feels almost more like a chainette in its texture. I know that sounds kind of weird, but you know, a lot of times like a blown yarn feels very light and airy. And while this doesn't feel like a heavy yarn, it definitely has more of a density to it than some of the blown yarns that I've used. I feel like Woolfolk yarn has been hit or miss for me. It's beautiful, soft yarn. It's very expensive yarn, and it does tend to pill. I will admit that this definitely has some pilling, but this isn't terrible. It hasn't pilled in a way that I'm super offended by. I do wear this sweater a lot. It's gotten a lot of wear, and I don't think the pilling is awful. I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera. But there's definitely pilling on the sleeves, under the arms, all of that. A little bit on the body, but nothing crazy. So I think overall I'm really happy with this yarn. I would maybe consider buying this yarn again, although I do think there are better options that you could probably do. I mean, for me, if you've watched previously, then you know how much I love Illimani Amelie. That is definitely my favorite blown yarn as of right now. And if I'm going to pay for a luxury yarn, especially a blown yarn, that's the one I'm gonna buy. But I do think this is a really nice yarn, really nice construction. I believe, and actually that's probably what gives it some of its density, I believe this is a 50% wool and 50% cotton blend. So for that reason, it's actually really nice. It's really breathable, but it does have a little bit of memory to it. So it's a nice yarn to work with. I mean, is it gonna age super well? Probably not. But if you are knitting this up in more of a precious garment, I think it's okay. So I overall am very happy with this entire garment. I love the design. The Magnolia Bloom series I just think is quite beautiful. I love the lace detailing, and it's actually really nice to do it on a large scale. I can't remember if this is Aran or bulky weight yarn. I don't remember off the top of my head. I will pop it up here just because I can't remember. But either way, this knit up incredibly fast. And it still looks like a really nice, delicate sweater, which I really enjoy. I think there is a time and a place for a bulky weight sweater, and something like this I think really fits the bill. It also has a little bit of a balloon sleeve, which is super fun. I love a balloon sleeve. So that is what I'm wearing. Why don't we go ahead and chat about my works in progress? And the first one, which you will be familiar with because I've been working on this for a while. This is my Fidalgo cardigan, my second Fidalgo cardigan. And I don't know how obvious it'll be, but I have negative progress on this. And that is because it's really funny because I'm looking at this on screen, and so last week, if you watched my last video, then you know that I had already knit past my 4th buttonhole, and I'm going to do 5 buttonholes on this one. I'm going to make this one a little bit longer than my original Fidalgo. And as I had joined another ball of yarn, I was really upset with the banding that was happening. It had gone from kind of a dark chunk of yarn to just a really light chunk of yarn. And I was thinking that I was just going to deal with it because it's Malabrigo, that's kind of how it goes. And then I attached the next ball of yarn and it got dark again. And it wasn't quite as dark as the top, but it was definitely darker than that band that I had. So I took about 25 photos in different rooms in different lighting to try and convince myself that it wasn't going to bother me. And it was bothering me. So I ripped out like 45 rows, went back to where it was before I had joined that first ball of yarn, and I decided that I would start with the next ball of yarn that I had joined near the end that seemed darker. I knew there was a chance that it was still going to be a little bit variegated because I just think that chunk on top was just much darker than the rest. But I thought that maybe it would help to kind of blend it a little bit. So I do think it's better. I don't think it's perfect. You can still very much see where I've joined that on, but the previous ball was even lighter than this. So, and of course, if you're not familiar, there's something about the contrast. I think it's like the HDR settings on the iPhone. It just makes this look even more obvious on screen. So, but this is basically all the new progress I've made. So if you look at here, that's basically where I ripped back to and have reknit. So where am I? I had to redo my third buttonhole, and I'm about halfway between that and setting up the fourth buttonhole. Once I get a couple of rows past the fourth buttonhole, then we'll be back to where I was. So right now I still consider this negative knitting, and we're getting close to being back in the neutral. So I think at this point I am just embracing the fact that there is going to be a little bit of variegation, a little bit of color banding. Again, I knew this was a risk with Malabrigo. It's just how it goes. It's hand-dyed yarn, and Malabrigo doesn't have dye lots, so there's really not a lot you can do about it. It just is what it is. I'm curious when you guys look at this, if you're gonna think I'm crazy for ripping something out for results that are similar. But I promise you, it was much worse before. This is livable. Like, I can live with this. This is not terrible. I think what helps me is that even though it is lighter, it still has some of those darker bands to it, whereas the other one, it was just literally a chunk of just like lighter yarn. We're rolling with it. It's how it's gonna go. It's fine. And hopefully I can make some good progress on this. I really wanna get this done soon so I can start wearing it. Of course, you know, I'm gonna be doing 5 buttonholes, and then I have to do the sleeves, so I've got a bit to go, but little by little, we're getting there. If I didn't say, this is using Malabrigo Rios in the color Pearl 10, which is like a nice deep purple. I do really like the color, and I think once it's all done, it's gonna be great and I'll be happy with it. Also, for anyone curious, I am thinking now that I will probably be doing the purple glitter buttons with this. I do think I kind of want a lower profile button because I think it's just going to kind of go better with the overall cardigan. Thank you again for all of your input. If you voted, if you let me know what buttons you were interested in. It's been quite a hot debate. But yeah, so I think those will be the buttons that I choose. So why don't we go ahead and chat about my next work in progress, which is another Fidalgo. However, this is not a Fidalgo cardigan. This is going to be the Fidalgo pullover. So it's always at a weird stage when it's like this, when you've got just the pieces to show. It's so awkward to show on screen, but let's do what we can. So this is using So Happy Jane Meadow DK in the color Night Bloom. This color is so beautiful. I love this color so much. It's like a beautiful raspberry fuchsia color. I just love it. I just think it's so stunning. So you can see here, I've done the entire back panel to where I need, and now I am working on the left panel, the left front panel right now. So you can see I've picked up at the seam here, and we are working through our increases on the front. So I've done all my math. I spent some time trying to think about exactly where I wanted that to end up. In last week's video, I talked a little bit about how I want the V to be similar, but I don't want the V to come as low for the pullover. On my Fidalgo cardigan, let me see if I can show this since I've got this guy here. Let's see if I can try and put this up. So the V comes fairly low, and that's on purpose. This is meant to be kind of an oversized slouchy cardigan. It's meant to be something where you do wear something underneath. I mean, you don't have to. You can wear this with nothing underneath, and that's great. But for me personally, I was planning to wear it where I could wear a t-shirt and then throw this over top and it feel like kind of a casual cardigan. So I liked having that deep V. For a pullover though, I don't want to feel like I have to wear something underneath. And so I wanted to bring that V up a little bit. So instead of it being, you know, about here where it connects, I lifted it to where it should be about here. And there's going to be an overlap, so it should come up at a place where it feels really nice, where it's got a nice V-neck, but it's not super low. In order to do that and stay in pattern, what I needed to do was actually reduce 4 increases on either side. So that was 8 increases total, because, you know, 4 increases on the left, 4 increases on the right, bringing that up. So instead of being here, it should be about here, and that's so it stays in pattern, and it gives you the same effect, just with a little bit of a higher V. So according to that, all the math, all the numbers should be good. What I've done to kind of help achieve that is, you know, of course, you still need those 4 increases on the body to give you the dimensions that you need. So I've just moved those to the underarm, and I'm really happy with how that's working out. Of course, I need to make sure it works out in my sample, so we will see shortly how I like that. So we are, let me see here, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I'm about halfway through the increases. I actually think I might only have to do 3 sets of increases more before I'm done with this panel, and then I'll do the right panel, and then I get to do the fun part where I am joining this collar. So I'm doing the same vertical collar. I just really wanted to do that because that's part of what I really enjoyed about this design. I thought it would be too much of a departure if I did your kind of more traditional ribbing that comes out horizontally. I liked the vertical ribbing on this. I liked that that was a big part of what made this the Fidalgo cardigan. And so I just thought it to be true to the pattern that we should stick with the same collar. And so that means that the construction is the same up until you get to finishing your increases. So the back panel construction should be the same. You pick up in the same way, and it's just a different increase rate at the front. That's all that's going to change. And then of course, you know, connecting those two together and then eventually joining in the round. So I'm really looking forward to getting to that point. There's always so much excitement with when I have a plan for something and I don't exactly know how it's going to look and how it's going to work out, but I have an idea in my head. Because, you know, of course, I could do all this and then do the overlap and not be happy with it and have to go back to the drawing board. So we're going to see how that goes. I'm feeling good about it. But we're gonna see. So that's what's going on with my Fidalgo pullover. Of course, because of this, my Fidalgo cardigan has taken a little bit of a backseat. I mean, the combination of having to rip out all of those rows and then also getting this guy started has definitely been a bit of a hindrance for my pullover, but I do really want to get this to a point. I at least want to get to the point where I've connected the collar and join this in the round, because then it's just smooth sailing. The sleeves should be about the same as before. There might be a slightly different rate that I will need to do just because of the additional stitches that I will be adding to the underarms. But it shouldn't be too terrible. Also, I just have to say how much I'm enjoying using this yarn. This is a 100% non-superwash fine merino, and it is so nice. It's really plump and round. It's soft, but it has that nice woolly texture. I really enjoy using this. The sustain base is just really lovely. So this is knitting up really nicely. I am very excited to see the progress happening on this. And so more to come soon on this guy, just because this is this kind of has my heart right now. So that's basically it for my active works in progress. I did bring one other thing down because I mean, it is a project that I do need to work on. Let me see if I can show it. So my husband's Siroc socks, you can see these are incredibly well loved. You can see how worn out the bottoms are. The yarn is holding up really well. So this yarn is Polka Dot Sheep Tenderfoot, which is an 80/20 merino superwash merino nylon sock yarn. And it's in the color Slate. I knit these for Thomas last year, I suppose. Maybe a little bit more than a year ago. I can't remember. But he has worn them a bunch. They've held up pretty well, but we do have a hole in the heel. So I am going to be darning these up probably tonight, maybe after this, something to soothe myself while I watch our beloved birch tree get cut down. That's so sad, but I actually have this little scrap ball of the yarn left, amazingly enough. You can see it's still kinked up from where I ripped it out. I think this was from a heel I did. I don't even remember. Is that terrible? I probably talked about it on here and I couldn't tell you now why I have this little kinked up ball of yarn, but I do. And so I will be repairing these for him. Fortunately, I don't think it's going to be terrible because I actually think the rip is only in one column of knits. So I won't need to do, I can probably just do a set of like 3 rows of duplicate stitch in this whole little section, and that'll clean it up really well. I actually just spent a few hours, I think last weekend, darning a few of his socks. He had a couple of pairs of socks where it was pretty similar to this, where there was just a little bit of a tear in the heel. Some were a little bigger than others. So I spent some time darning those, and you know, one came out better than the other, but they're fine, they're doable. The one with the really big hole was a little bit tricky. There is one account on Instagram that I love to follow. I believe it's Alexandra Brink. I believe that that's her handle. I'll pop it up just in case. But she has really great tips on darning in all sorts of different ways. She'll show you ways where you can add in like a little bit of a thread to like a guideline thread that you cut out at the end. That's what I should have done. If I had done that, then it probably would have been smoother, but I was being lazy and didn't want to go upstairs and get my thread. So it's my own fault, but they're fine. It's patched, it's good. But if you're ever looking for darning tips, I would definitely go check out her Instagram account because it's just really helpful. And it's also just really fun to watch and it's kind of inspiring. So probably going to take care of this after I finish filming, and that'll be work in progress number 3. Is this a work in progress? I don't know. It's a repair in progress, we'll call it that. So that's it for my knitting today. I do have a little bit of book chat. So last week I was talking about how I was about 20-30% into Don't Let Him In by Lisa Jewell. I have since finished that book. I enjoyed that book. It's about a con man, and you're following him as he is conning all these different women in his life. And it's over the course of several years, and he dupes a lot of women, and it's set in kind of the present day where he has met this new woman, but then there's also flashbacks of him with different women. And of course there's a bit of overlap as he has made all of these lies about these relationships with all of these different women just to kind of coast through life and struggle and be kind of a terrible human. I will give some trigger warnings. About halfway through the book, it does get a bit darker. He's just awful. He's really, really awful, an awful guy. So just know that going into it, that he does some pretty terrible things. But I did enjoy the book. I thought it was a book that I read really quickly because I just needed to know what was going to happen. And then the resolution was interesting. If anybody has read this book, I would love to hear your opinions on the ending, specifically with what happened with him, because it was just kind of like, what? So that kind of got me. Like, I enjoyed the book, and then I got to the end and I'm like, wait, what? So if you've read this book, please let me know. Let me know what you thought about that ending, because I'm just really curious. I don't know anybody yet who's read this book because it's a fairly new book, but please let me know if you have, because I'd love to know your thoughts. So that was a fine read, I suppose. And then the next book that I also just finished was Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Really enjoyed this book. It was a great book. I actually started this as an audiobook. I like to go on walks and I always want to have an audiobook with me, and that just happened to come in my Libby queue. And so that became my audiobook. And then the digital version came through on my Libby queue pretty soon after. So I got to about the halfway point, and then it got to a point where I needed to keep reading it more than just the audiobook because I wanted to know what was going to happen there. And I really, really enjoyed that. So this is another one where I don't want to give too much away. I went in completely blind. I had no idea what this book was going to be about. I just knew that I enjoy Taylor Jenkins Reid and I thought I would like the book. And I did. So I will say this, it is following a woman who joins the NASA astronaut program in the late 70s through the early 80s. And you're following her as she's sort of navigating that career in a time where these are some of the first female astronauts, and there's a level of respect that they don't always get, trying to prove herself in a very male-dominated field in a time where women are still struggling to get that level of respect and freedom in the workplace and growth in their careers, and even just the options for that. And so you're following this main character as she's sort of navigating that. And then from there, you're dealing with a few relationships, some familial and some that she builds while in the NASA program. And there's part of me that wants to give details on this, but there's another part of me that just wants to leave it completely open and leave it at that. You know pretty early on where the direction is headed. I just really enjoy the way that this relationship of hers builds in a time where it's just not something that's socially acceptable. I loved the chemistry of this relationship and the slow build of where it goes, where you can feel the chemistry happening, and you know what's happening before the main character does, before she really can understand or recognize what's going on. And I think the book does a really good job of just building that chemistry of the relationship. I will say it goes from, there is definitely a shift where I would say the first half of the book is really focused on her and her career. The second half of the book is way more focused on her and the relationship. But then the end of the book kind of ties all of that back together. You are also getting snippets of a future event in space that is dicey. We're just gonna say that. There are some things that have happened in space and you don't really know which way it's going to go and if it's going to have a happy ending. So these little scenes are happening in between her building her life here at NASA and with these people. And I thought it had a nice ending. It was buttoned up nicely and I'm okay with that. I left the book feeling positive and happy, and I'm really happy I read the book. It was funny too because as soon as I was done reading that book, I was just really craving watching any sort of like space content. So Thomas and I, we have loved the show For All Mankind on Apple TV Plus. So we've already watched all of that. We're all caught up on that and we're anxiously awaiting the next season. But after I finished, I told Thomas, I'm like, I just really want to watch something with astronauts or in space or something. And so we ended up watching Apollo 13 like the night after I finished, which was nice because I haven't watched that movie in a million years, like forever ago. So that was really fun. I don't know, just to kind of put me in that like space mood. So I definitely recommend that book. If you're a fan of Taylor Jenkins Reid, then I do think you will enjoy it. So that's where I'm at with my books. I haven't read in a couple of days just because I feel like the last few books I've read have been really good and I've read them so quickly. The next book in my queue is The Listeners, which I've already started. I am probably about 30% in the book. I'm not as excited just because it's just been a little bit slow, just especially compared to the last several books that I've read. This one, it's not bad by any means, but it just feels like it's taking a really long time to get where it needs to go. And so I haven't been super motivated to pick that back up, but I do really want to know what happens. So that is probably still the next book I'm going to read. I also have The Tainted Cup in my queue as well. It was a book I've seen recommended a ton, and it was on my Kobo wish list. And then also, if you have a Kobo, I highly recommend putting books on your wish list because what they will do is sometimes these books go on crazy sale and they will email you to let you know. And that's exactly what happened with this book. So I believe this book has retailed for like $14.99 US, and they emailed me to let me know it was on sale for $1.99. So I was like, of course I'm going to buy that. So I now have that in my queue too, which is good because it's also been in my Libby queue forever, and the wait was like, I don't know, 30 weeks or something crazy like that. So there's a chance I might read that sooner than later. I'm gonna give the listeners another chance, and we're gonna see. And if it just doesn't hook me, then I'll probably read The Tainted Cup next. So that covers my book chat. It was really nice to have a few books in a row that I just read really quickly. I feel like sometimes I get in reading slumps where I just really can't get into a book, and you start to feel like, is it me? Am I just not in a reading mood? And then you find that book, you find that book where you're like, oh man, no, it wasn't me. I just needed this. I needed this in my life. So that's been the last few. I'm hoping that maybe the listeners will pick up and that'll feel the same way. So we'll see. Definitely let me know if you've read any of these books, what your thoughts are. I always appreciate when you guys give me book recommendations too. I add them to my queue, but the list is long, so sometimes it takes a while for me to get there. But I do love book recommendations. So let me know if you have read any of those. That's basically all I've got for you this week. If you stuck around until now, thank you so much for watching. If you would like to get in touch with me, I am meeshyfrazz on Instagram and Ravelry. You can email me at meeshyfrazz@gmail.com, and you can find me on my website, which is meeshyfrazzknits.com. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.